Hey, good morning and good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm your host, Mr. B, and we've got my good friend here, Geryl Fountain, and he is from Midwest Skywatchers, Night Watchers. Sorry, get it right.
Yep. Midwest Night Watchers.
That's right. And you got it, Midwest there, right there, Mr. Midwest. And oh, dear, what a crazy! I couldn't again. I can't sleep. It's the hour, or it's what's the time here? It's 1:52 a.m. in the morning here, and of course, Mr. B's kind of tossing and turning in bed, and of course, I've always got my good mate Geryl on the side there. I can just say, hey, I can't sleep. He kind of says, well, get off your ass and let's go do a show. So I think, there we are. And I'm glad everybody can join us. Hey, listen, I put a link on in the YouTube chat, and if you want to jump in and say hello, click on it and come in on the show. And hey, it's a open house. Everybody's welcome to join us, and we're a friendly bunch, really. I mean, we won't charge you, not yet. But anyway, tonight, hey Gerald, have you ever thought about vibrations? How things vibrate? You hear it all the time. Things resonate, planets resonate, every living thing resonates. They even reckon when you die, you still resonate. Because the atoms don't go away; they still exist, but the consciousness goes off somewhere else, and it's a very interesting topic. I did do a show a long time ago about this matter, and it's strange that our body language resonates, and how we talk to each other, and how we kind of approach things, and it's like if you walk towards somebody and you've got a frown on your face and you're looking stressed out, you'll find, I'll say, good 90% of people, if they've got a heart like a rock, will look at the floor and say, I don't want to know that person. No, I'm going to avoid it. But if you walk towards them and you've got a big cheesy smile on your face, they can't help but smile back. It's like, and everybody tunes in to the positives and everybody tunes into the negatives, and it's how what we do and what we say affects everything, literally everything. And it's like, hey, makes you wonder where we come from and where we're going, because it's like we're so connected to the point where the American and native Indian, they talk about grounding, right? I mean, when you ground, you connect with the Mother Earth, and everybody used to think at one time, oh, it's crazy, it's all great, but we're still talking about resonating, right? It's kinetic, it's energy which you pass on to everything, It's like a gentle touch, It's like when you just feel the bad vibes, and everybody feels it, but it's not just that they see it and hear it, they actually feel it. And it's like, isn't it strange that we can hear thunder, and it's a noise, it resonates, and some people get scared, some people don't, some people like the sound of thunder, believe it or not, and it's how we all react. But yet we just don't seem to kind of, the way we live in our world, we don't seem to connect to what really, really matters. I seem to be all over the place here, but this is something I've always kind of thought to myself, well, now science has actually taken it down the road where now saying now earthing. What they've done, they've taken blood cells from individuals, not one, but a team of people. And they take their blood cells and they look at the blood cells and they look at how the red blood cells are all grouped together and circulate. But then they get people go barefoot and walk in the ocean for 20 minutes. And straight after they've gone for the walk, then they take another blood test. And then they find out all these red blood cells have separated, and it's like it's non-clogging. And they see that the circulation's working better. And it's like this grounding it's actually a real, it's a real thing, this vibrations. So it's like the things we say, the tone. It's like, well, excuse my language, anybody to listen. Like if you can say to somebody, you're a bastard, and they get offended, right? But yeah, if you say, oh, yes, silly old bastard, they look at you, they know you're joking. It's all to do with tone, resonance again, It's it's like, it's how we say it and how we do it. And we've got to be really kind of, I would say, aware and how we behave or conduct ourselves with other people, because we don't know how it affects them. I mean, look, I know there's pussies out there that cry over spilt milk, but I mean, I talking to a friend today, uh, this afternoon actually. I went to his shop, and he was telling me about all this. Within the last year, 3 people he's known committed suicide, but they had everything going for them. Everything going for them. He says, one of them's one of the sons got a cum laude at university, which is very high level of in his class. It's like an honors degree, and his father's so proud. And there's another guy, his son came a doctor, and they've had everything to be proud of, and everything seemed fine. But we don't know what's going on in people's minds, and we've really got to be careful on how we react with people. Hi, Heidi, how are you? and it's something I've been pondering on a lot lately. I mean, look, I've got a friend online now. She's there, looking in there, Miss Heidi Pope, and she's we're actually texting the other day, and she does homeschooling, and it's how it's your, and she mentioned how they do face contact and shake hands. They kind of introduce each other each day, and it's that personal contact makes you feel special, makes you feel involved, that you're not just a number, that you are an individual, and I relate to that very much so. And I'm a bit of a chatterbox, and and I just waffle on at times, but I am a people's person, and I like to see people happy, and I like to see people striving. If somebody does better than me, I say fantastic. I don't care. I'm just happy for them, because hey, we've all got our own journey in life, and it's how we resonate in that life. Because I have a saying at the end of my show, let's aspire to inspire. And that's one of the most important things in life. Let's not pull somebody down through jealousy or resentment, And it's we've got to start putting positive energies out to each other. And in this, what I'm talking about, vibrations. We've got to put positive energy. So, what's your thought on this, anyhow?
Yes, I mean, every living thing and some inanimate objects have frequencies. I mean, gemstones have frequencies. I mean, they all have stuff, and humans have their own resonance in their frequencies. I mean, they read auras on people so they can tell, what your moods are or what your characteristics are, and we all have our own frequency or our own vibration. I mean, some people are naturally down, some people are jolly and happy all the time. I mean, you can just tell that when you meet somebody, whether they're a good bloke or a not happy person. And I mean, there's always that person that you meet that you might not resonate with right away. You just say, oh, I don't like that. There's something about this person that sets me wrong, whether it's their frequency or their persona or whatever. You don't even have to talk to them. You just see them and you just know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's, I've come across that many times, and as you said, you meet people and you don't know what it is, but yet you meet people who you suddenly connect with. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's like today, my friend had I won't go too much in detail, but a very good friend, a very dear friend of mine, had his funeral today. And anyway, he's got the same surname as I have. No, it could be related to me. Go back hundreds of years ago. some ancestors probably kind of, everybody goes out their own way, sort of thing. But the thing is, when we first met, just spoke. Now he's 83 years of age now, when he passed. But he was the most youngest mind bloke I've ever come across. He's an adventurer. He'll pull a sleigh sled with a harness on, fully loaded, And he's got his automatic rifle on his back shoulder, and he goes hiking in the mountains, 7,000 feet above sea level, and through the snow. this is the kind of character he was, you know. And if he wasn't doing that, he was riding his mountain bike up the mountain, you know. And not that well, here am I, I'm big fat lazy slobbers myself, you know, a lot younger than him, you know, and he's doing all this stuff, and of course, cancer got hold of him, you know, got cancer on his brain, and of course it got to him, but he fought it hard, you know, and I love that guy, I really did, you know, and the thing is, you say to yourself, God, man, you know, you meet somebody and you just connect, you know, you just connect like they're a brother, you know, you just, it makes a difference what they do in life, whatever they are. They just, you just know that they're like soulmates, you know, that's, you don't have to be you don't have to be gay or anything to, or married to have a soulmate. A soulmate is somebody you totally connect with on every level, you know, and it's so sad, you know, like, but this is what it's all about, people, and people are so important, you know, and and this is where it makes you reflect, you know, is that, hey, we're only here for a short time, but let's have a good time, be happy, and you know, I mean, the way the world's going at the moment, it's like they got all the money in the world to spend the billions, I'll say billions, to develop a new weapon that. Right? Well, no, this is only in development. This is not manufacturing them, you know. They spend billions in on developing new supersonic ballistic missiles, you know, working at hypersonic speeds, making it virtually impossible to shoot down. So So what we're doing, your taxpayers and our taxpayers and everything is going into investing on how to destroy ourselves faster and better and more efficient. Yeah, I mean, do you see the irony of these so-called intelligent
Yeah.
people, you know? But yeah, you've got people, vets, you know, living on the streets, one leg, no legs in some case, one arm, living in the gutters, right? They can't afford to house them, you know, and give them proper training to integrate properly in society. But they've got all the money for everything else. They can go and spend billions of dollars on those Hadrian collars, you know, where they can go and smash atoms and say, oh, let's go and look for the God particle, right? Well, you know what? I say shame. I say shame on these people. Shame on the governments for spending that kind of money. I mean, yes, we've got to move forward and advance. Of course we do. But people are more important. People are far more important. The next generation is more important, you know. And it's all these, again, comes back to vibrations. It's these negative thoughts these leaders put out. They talk about, I mean, through the 60s, 50s, and 60s, all kids at school learned how duck under the table because we could be hit by a nuclear bomb. It's, you know, oh, what the hell is ducking under a frigging table going to do? A bloody H bomb, a nuclear bomb hit you. I mean, let's face. I mean, the stupidity of it. But they condition their minds with fear. I mean, what does that do in the long run? Like, does it divide nations? Right? This is the thing. It divides people. I mean, attitudes and approach, which I think is totally. People really need to sit back and look. I mean, I believe in equal rights, one for all. You know, one rule, one law for everybody. It makes a difference what color, religion, or whatever you are. You know, you keep your religion to yourself. That's your personal belief. That's your personal walk in life. That's fine. But don't expect other people to have to conform to your way of thinking. But just keep it yourself. It's fine. You know, I don't care what gender you are. Keep it to yourself. You don't have to advertise. I don't go walking down the street ripping off my shirt and say, "Oh, I'm a heterosexual. I'm proud of it." I don't do that. I'm just a normal person doing what I have to do every day. I come home to my wife. I love my wife. I do my normal thing. I don't talk about my sexuality or anything to anybody. It's no one else's business. And when people start being flamboyant, I find it very offensive because I don't want to hear their personal intimacy, that's personal. How they behave in themselves. And they're putting these, I call it negative vibrations. And people do look at it negatively because personally, I don't care. I mean, at the end of the day, all I know, are you happy? Well, fine. Good. I'm glad you're happy because that's how you should be. And if the whole world had the same attitude, it'd be a wonderful world to live in, you know? I mean, the way we are conditioned, we say, oh, we've got to be careful about China. It's not China we've got to worry about. It's their frigging politicians. The average Chinese people, they love their families just like we love our families. They love their children just like we love our children. They go to work all day to earn a living, to be able to buy food and put on the table for their family, just like we do. It's the small percentage of people, the hierarchy in government, I call them educated friggin' idiots, and I do, and I don't mind saying it, educated idiots that should know better. They work on propaganda, you know? They work on propaganda on everything, literally everything, for public opinion. It's a poll. It's all about numbers. I mean, where do you go from this? You know, how do we go over this loop, as they say? How do we get out of that rut, you know, of conditioning and manipulating people? How do we get over that? And that's a very interesting target we should, because it's all to do, again, it comes down to how negative thoughts, our negative vibrations we put out there. Now, people say, oh, shit, they used to worry about the Cold War. Now everybody's worrying about what China's doing, you know, and everybody's wondering what's happening in Europe, and everybody worries about this. And I mean, my God, I mean, if they're so worried about it, why don't they do something about it? You know what I mean? Everybody's worried about it. Why aren't they walking on Parliament or walking on the White House, you know, and protesting, say, get your shit together. Also, too, maybe here I'm going a bit political here. I'm not no particular party. No, I'm talking about all government people around the world. Government workers, right, politicians, should not get paid a wage. They should be treated like a contractor. You don't do the job, you don't get paid. You know, now, if you make the economy better, right, and we make and our assets becomes excellent, now we will give you 10% of the profit that the country makes. Now that's a fabulous bonus. Now, if you can make a couple of trillion for us, well, a 10 trillion or whatever, you're going to get $1 trillion. That's better than a paycheck in your back pocket. But if you create you know, if the economy goes in slumps, we're not paying you jack. Let's see how things change. Let's see how things quickly change. All of a sudden you'll find, hey, our economy is really booming now. You know, they've got incentive to make it boom because they're not going to get anything. You know? And they should have an independent party for any law changes. And when this law change, it's got to be done like a 12-person jury picked from the public. And they've got to put this to them and state their case like it's a murder trial, because no one has a right. I don't give a damn if it's Congress or anything, but the people themselves should turn around and say, no, we want to protect the First Amendment. We want to protect these rights. And you do what you have to do, but don't try to fool us or put a wool over our eyes. And you cannot have corporations sponsoring you in your election with millions of dollars, because I tell you now, if they're going to give a politician millions of dollars to back, they're going to want money. They want something back in return. That no one throws millions of dollars away in supporting a party if they're not after something else back in returns. And that's it. That's the reality of it. Let's start wearing bloody logos. Who's your sponsor? You know what I mean? And you know, that's like, to me, that'd be like, what do they call it? Inside trading on the stock market.
Yep.
Literally. And you go to jail for that. But anyway, I'm on my high horse tonight. That's only because, everybody, I haven't had any sleep. I'm awake, and here I am. I'm having my mother's milk. There it is, my mother's milk. Only one at this time in the morning. How shame! I hold my head in shame. Like hell. Anyway, nothing worse than tossing and turning in bed, Geryl. Nothing worse.
Yep.
Especially when you got a bad neck, bad back, and everything. Nothing. Oh, you're okay. But I really do come in and chin wagging sometimes. I do waffle on a bit. This is why most of my guests come on. You know, my friends come on. They do all the talking. They shut up, Terry. Yeah, they push me aside. Hey, Mr. B, yeah, okay. You just shut up. And we'll just do it. I just say, okay. Just sit aside there. You know what I mean? But oh dear, the Fifth Light Bandit. Who's that? Okay, yes, Janet. Why don't you come on and say hello, Janet? Hey, go and click on the link. You're quite welcome. Anybody who wants to come on the show, hey, join us on the podcast. You know, if you've got a webcam or a laptop or anything, you've got a camera, just go and click on the link. I'll post the link again. Now come on and say hello. Hey, we don't bite. We just have a bit of a chat. Well, I'm doing all the talking at the moment, not even giving Geryl a chance to get a word in edgewise. Hey, I've been hanging around with Professor Bauer too long, you know. But it's rubbing off on me, you know. Hey, wonderful guys, mate. They're wonderful guys. But anyway, I'm going to send the link there back on there again. You know, I think people get a bit shy there, Geryl. They really do, mate. They really get shy.
While you do that, I'll try to do a rebuttal on what you just rambled off for 5 minutes.
Hey, the stage is yours, my friend. The stage is yours.
You know, back in the day, you know, when my parents were raising me, they would read the newspaper. They didn't have the TV or internet or any of that stuff on. You know, it was read the articles, and if you want, you know, just like everything else, if you wanted to read it, you read it. If it interests you, you read it. And then they might watch the nightly news, just, you know, an hour show, half-hour show, just to get the highlights. So this day and age, you need to take care of yourself, your residents. You know, I always say the Holy Trinity, your mind, body, and soul. You need to protect that. Everything out there on your internet news, your CNN, your Fox, whatever affiliation you watch, it's nothing but gloom and doom. Turn it off. Quit watching it. We got rid of our cable. So that way we nitpick and pick and choose what we want to watch, what we have coming to you. And your body feeds off that. If it's negative day in, day out that you're watching, then that's what you're going to end up resonating yourself. It's going to lower your frequency. So back, what the story I was getting to is my parents, if somebody was sickly, they would take them food. They would take them soup. They would, you know, whatever to make their lives better, help them get healthy again. And we've lost that in this community. And that's what all part of this pandemic was all about. Keep you isolated, keep you away from other people, keep you helping and socializing. I mean, humans need contact. We need face-to-face, human touch. I mean, it's all about love and taking care of one another. And we need to get back to that. So raise your vibration, send out your love. If your neighbor's sick, see if they need something. Go to the store for them. Go to the drugstore. Get them cough medicine, whatever you can do. Take them flowers. Just make them something joyful and happy in their life. And just do that little at a time. And pretty soon you will start feeling better about yourself. You'll raise your vibration. You'll be, next thing you know, if you're sick, your neighbor will come over and help you out. And we learn
by example. And we do learn by example, you know, and that's the important thing. Yeah, I totally relate. What you're saying is absolutely true. But I also remember many years ago when I lost my wife, I was left with a 5-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, which I raised by myself for quite some time. And the kindness of people. I mean, I used to have people knocking on the door of my home from church, you know, and saying, I brought over a casserole. I mean, you know, it's not that I was supporting my children really and looking after my children really well, but they would be coming over and saying, look, I've got a casserole here, or Oh, I got some clothes I think it might suit your daughter. And if your daughter needs to, as she grows up, needs some woman advice, let them come and see me, and I'll talk to them, especially when they get around the age of 13, when all the girl things start really happening and stuff like that. And there was this support, which you're talking about, like bringing food, giving you time, showing that they care. Are you okay? Are you coping okay? It means that, even if though you personally, you really don't need it, but it does make a big world of difference on how you feel, and it gives you hope, It makes it not everybody are assholes, really not, and it actually it changes your approach of way about. And yes, you make 100% what you're saying. I mean, that's our generation. It was my generation. Totally agree with you there, Geryl. Totally agree with that. Like with the chicken broth and soup, and I mean, we didn't have tea. Hey, I would have been about 8, 9 by the time we had our first black and white TV. Well, basically, it's all radiogram. The old valve job. But those radiograms had that beautiful, rich, bassy sound to it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, oh wow, you don't hear sound like that. Everything's now transistors. As much transistors are good, they didn't have that rich bass sound to it. Yeah. So every time you turn the radiogram on, you actually got to wait a minute before for the valves to warm up before you actually listen to it, which was quite amusing, really. But it wasn't. It was a beautiful period of time. Of course, today's got its positives as well, but yeah, we do tend to get sidetracked, as you say, with all the negativity, like with what you hear on the news. Nothing any good. It's like we kind of we advertise all the trouble, like people. It's like no criticism to my wife and my family. My family from the Philippines, and of course, I'm used to being raised up, and you're probably the same. When you're raised up, your front door was open all the time. I mean, all you had is a fly wire on the front door. Even at night, on a hot summer's night, the door was left open. The fly wire, you lock the fly wire from the inside, but anybody could still break in. What I mean? It's only fly wire. And that's how everybody lived. And now today, I mean, everything's security. You've got security cameras. You've got what they call a thing called ampler mesh, which you can't get through the wire anymore. You're not even with a hammer or a pick. It's so tough. It's so tough it rusts, mate. It's we live in fear. We imprison ourselves in a home, afraid of outsiders coming in. And yes, it's bad, but it's personally, I don't think it's any worse than what it was 60, 70 years ago. It may appear to be worse because what we've got to look at, 60, 70 years ago, the population was half than what it is today. People were more spread out in suburbia. I mean, everybody had their block of land was anywhere between 800 to 1,000 square meter block. And now everybody's been corralled into the city, right? More city living. The average, if you own a house, the average size block was probably about 400 to 300 square meters. I mean, it's not very big. So they go 2-story to get the size of the house, the living space they want. So now we're all herded into one little tight community where the population has doubled. So the crime rate's going to double. It's all to do with percentages of per population. Now, they turn around and say, oh, you hear it all the time. Oh, but in America, they have 10 murders per night in such and such city. Well, in Perth, we might get one once a week. But the difference is in Western Australia, not just in Perth, in Western Australia, it's only about 2 million people. In Perth might be about 1 million. And one person might die every 3 or 4 days or 5 days through a crime, right? But if you've got the same space in a city with how many million people in New York? 7 million?
Yeah.
Of course, the numbers of murders is going to rise. And so it's sort of do with statistics and numbers, and that's basically what it's all about, And but we are conditioned how things are bad, and things. Yes, look, certain things are bad. I mean, I think there's people in jail that shouldn't be in jail, and people are in jail that should have been bloody put to the death squad. I don't give. I mean, I believe in the death. I mean, if you've got a pedophile that murdered 2 or 3 kids, I mean, that guy is a scumbag. Doesn't need to be. What way? He shouldn't have been arrested. Should have been shot in the spot like he would have a mad dog. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yep.
that's my. Hey, why should the taxpayers have to pay to imprison a serial killer with children? I mean, why should you have to pay for that? No, so I mean, we don't hesitate if a dog bit somebody. It's a life. A life is a life. It makes no difference what species you are. It's a life is a life. It's all to do with vibrations, and we are all connected. We are all connected, and that's it. But anyway, I'll put it back to you, mate. I've taken over. I'm sorry about that, Geryl.
No, that's
My
okay.
apologies, mate.
The whole thing, what you mentioned about before, where we were all spread out, you always had small communities, you had farmers that lived outside of those, and that was the whole deal, that they wanted to herd us together. They can't control us when we're all spread out. It's harder for them to keep control of us and control the narratives when you got local populations that spread out over square miles compared to this in square feet in a city. And that's why the whole isolation thing is, they wanted to put the fear in you. They wanted to be able to control you. If they kept you in one location, they knew where you were, and they kept you off the streets. Well, when they keep you off the streets, guess what goes out? The people that don't care about the law, the people that don't care about what's going on. So the gang members and all the people that want to do you harm end up coming out in the streets. And then that's when your crime goes up. And then you have disband the police, defund the police, what's happening in big cities and all over the U.S. here. They just went crazy with all these concepts and these agendas.
Yeah. Yeah, these agendas, especially, look, see, as an outsider, I mean, I don't have a right to talk about America because I'm not American, right? But as an outsider looking in, and which we have our own problems, right? Not and I'll be frank about our problems, but you can reflect on Americans too. In Australia, we're going through the Aboriginals, the Indigenous people of Australia. They're after certain seats, rights to be in Parliament, to make choices. Now, and we've got this referendum coming up. We've got to vote yes or no about it. But what we do know, the Aboriginal community, they want more say in Parliament. Well, I have a lot of respect for the Indigenous people of Australia. I really do. I'm not a prejudiced or racist person. But what I am against are the bureaucrats of the Aboriginal community, people that have been to court, a university, studied law. They're manipulating their own society or their own communities to back them because they say, you have rights, you deserve this and you deserve that. Now, I think that is wrong. Now, there's a thing I call positive prejudice. You don't have to be nasty to be prejudiced. But the sheer fact that if you're Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, when you fill out an application form or something, or ask you, are you a Torres Strait or Aboriginal, are you Indigenous or Torres Strait Islander? If you say yes, that gives you special benefits, right? Now, they would get something like $25 per child if you've got 3 kids, right? So you're getting $25 per child to send them to school each week. As an Australian myself, when I was raising my children, or my kids, as much as education's free in Australia, unless I want to send them to a private school, which I did, send my kids to a private school. But even if I didn't, I would not get $25 per child to send my kids to school. I did not have a centre where I can go to. Well, the Aboriginals have an Aboriginal community centre they can go to. They can sit down and have a hot meal there. They haven't got any money, right? They can also get a book of special tickets, right? Which they can present that in places like Kmart or Target stores, and they can get 40% off clothing, right? I don't get anything like that. Now, if I fell unemployed and I went to Centrelink, that's our unemployment office, and say, listen, can you sponsor me to do a course I want to do to help me get employment? Now, I've never had to do this, but I know people have done this. And they'll say to you, do you have a letter of an employer that's willing to offer you a job if you get that ticket? In other words, if you want to become a crane operator, or you want to become, or whatever, right? A forklift driver or whatever, they will pay for the course for you to do it. If you've got a letter saying they're going to offer you a job if you've got that ticket, they would let you do the course. But if I was Aboriginal, I can go and say, I want to do a course. Yeah, what do you want to do? Right? Now, Aboriginals also, if you're a low income person in Australia and you want to go for state housing, right? There's a 5-year waiting list. But for Aboriginals, we'll see what we've got on file, and they'll have you housed within a week. Now, this is what I mean. I don't have no objections to Aboriginals being helped, right? Or anybody being helped. But what I do object is, it's theoretically, really, responsibly, it should be one law for everybody. Because what we're actually doing, we are actually segregating. Yeah, yes, right. Humanity is going through an upgrade. Hey, Robert, click the link, mate, and come on in. Prof, professors on the side didn't think you're going to be up at this time of day, Prof. Come on, Prof. You can do it. Come on. You can't help yourself. Come on. Tickle that little link there, buddy. Come on in. Yeah. He might do. He may not. He might do. But it is. It's what I call power. Because what will happen if they do get that voice in Parliament? What's going to happen? Every bit of valuable land around the city or anything like that, all of a sudden it's going to become Aboriginal sacred land. You with me? But if you're going to use it, you're going to use it at a price. It's like up north. They've been mining up north and for a long time, mate. And all of a sudden, some of these Aboriginal creatures, this is sacred land. So now they're paying this Aboriginal community millions and millions of dollars in royalty for that, to be able to mine on their land. But it's not going to the Indigenous people. It's going to some community in the city. But there's people that live up there that actually live in that surrounding and not getting no benefits from it whatsoever. It's the fat cats, Aboriginals that live, like we call them, fringe dwellers. They're Aboriginals living in the community, living in a white community, having a wonderful life. They've got their nice big 2-story house and everything. They're living well. They wouldn't even know how to live indigenously. They wouldn't have a clue how to throw a spear or gut a goanna and eat its flesh. They would not have a clue.
Right.
Their ancestors did, but yet they talk about rights. Now, I believe in rights for everybody. One nation, one law for everybody. No, no different. Because what we do, if you start reckoning them as a different species, that's what you're actually doing. It's calling them a different species. That's what I think. Just because they are who they are, we've got to treat them with kicking gloves and being no. They're human beings. They bleed, they hurt, they've got feelings just like you or I. It's sad that the white men came here hundreds of years ago and took their land. But we're migrating species. Every animal on the planet migrates. Every animal migrates. The birds fly from one country to another country. The bloody elks travel from bloody Canada into America.
Right.
Animals migrate, and hey, we're a we're a species. We are still animals, a human species, of Homo sapiens sapiens species. They all move. Even every animal moves. They migrate. They go where the grass is greener, and that's how it is. You can't stop it. Are we the invaders? Well, if we have to say, well, okay, you originally Aboriginals came from Indonesia, where before the tectonic plates took over and trade and divided the lands, but hey, you originally come from Indonesia, 75,000 years ago or plus, time and space is totally irrelevant. It's who you are as an individual. Makes no difference what color of skin. I respect all race, all creed, whatever. Mate, they're just people with a heart. Some people are just kind of live in sorrow all the time. They live in woe, I call it, and they just want to make everybody around them miserable, So, yeah. But, so I'll let you. I'm going to see if I can see if Robert wants to come in. I'll send him a personal invite. He might be offended. I didn't think he'd be around this time in the morning. I don't usually do a show at this time. Last time I did with you, didn't I? That was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It might be a weekend thing, maybe. I don't know. Oh dear. That's terrible, mate. But anyway, I'll see what he does. See if he comes on. Let's have a look. Bear with me, mate. Bear with me. Yeah. He might come. He may not. But that's okay. Do another one. Robbie, just bear with me there. You say you got any thoughts there, Geryl?
Well, once they take office, they lose touch. Some of them, these have been professional politicians their whole lives. They don't know what a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk costs or a liter of gas, or they have no idea. When they give us, when they gave you $100 or $200, they thought that was all the money we would ever need, and that doesn't hardly buy anything these days in this economy. And they've just lost touch. We need to have rotating through Congress or politicians, whatever country, in an office for a season, then out. Just like our forefathers when they came here for their independence. They weren't in Congress all the time. They weren't in the White House all the time. They had their jobs. They farmed. They were lawyers. They were whatever they were. Then when Congress was in session, they went there, had their session, got their work done, and they got back out and joined us in the regular civilization and society.
That's true. That's so true. Yeah, it's as you said, politicians today. I don't give a damn what country they're in. I'm talking about all politicians. But I'm sure there's one or two, but they're not in the power to do anything. They don't have the integrity. It's all to do with popularity. It's all to do about it's a career. It's a career. And as I said, if they had to work on a contract base to produce, just like any other contractor, they don't get paid if they don't do the job. I think we'd see a totally different approach to the economy. Totally different approach. And again, it's a hard one. It's a hard one because you said they don't know what it's like to say struggle to pay the rent or struggle. Oh shit! Do I have enough money? If I paid electricity this month, I'm not going to have food this week. I mean, and there are people out there like that, and I mean, I've been down that road many years ago when I was a single parent. Yeah, I mean, there was a time when kids were so young, I had to go on what they call supporting single parents pension for a couple of years because my son at 5 years of age was a chronic asthmatic and had illnesses. Allergies come illnesses. So every time you get an allergy, bang, you had an asthma attack. You'll end up in hospital, And that's so bloody true too. Look at that. Everything is going on the dollar stores. Yeah, it costs $25 to $50. Buy anything. Yeah, I tell you, it's and the message Robert gave earlier on, humanity is going through an upgrade later around 1920s. The time was changing. I thought, yeah. And hey, welcome with us there, Brian.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm only here for a cameo because I'm due to be interviewed at 12 noon my time in 22 minutes.
Oh well, mate. When you go, you've got to go. At least you can get a warm up here.
Yeah, let's do it. Is that Geryl?
Yep.
Yes, it certainly is.
How you doing? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're talking about everything and nothing from vibrations right through to politics and then what the rights of people and what Indigenous people are trying for in Australia. Which, well, I'm not prejudiced or racist, but I believe in one law for everybody. As soon as
that's not prejudice. That sounds like the opposite of prejudice. Exactly. That sounds like actually the definition of not prejudice.
Yeah, well, the way I see things, there is people don't understand the meaning of positive prejudice. You're given to them because of who they are.
Yeah, well, that's. Okay, so let's put it in the context of this wokeness, which is really trying to undermine rules and laws for everyone by doing these special cases, quote unquote. But what it really does is it undermines the morale and the morality of a society.
Hi, mate, you got a fan there.
Yeah. Oh, I got several. I try to coordinate with people around the world.
Okay. Oh, mate.
Yeah. I'll mute that. There you go.
So let your head swell, mate.
It was just the other day that one of our Congress people that were big in defund the police got carjacked in their own driveway, and they want to know, well, how's that happen? Why is that going on? Well,
beaten down in front of her own kids,
and you don't have any idea what's going on in society that you're ruling on.
Well, she got beaten down in front of her own kids, and she's using the fact that she's a mother and she could have died in front of her own kids or blah, 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 as supposedly a wake-up call to the society when all she did is she woke up herself in front of society. And she's very much the butt of many a joke, because what's the definition of a conservative? A liberal who just got carjacked. Yeah. And in this case, it was like World Star. So, yeah.
Well, I'm just going to post another link there if anybody wants to join us.
Sounds like Mike from Long Island Bigfoot will come on.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah. Mike is excellent. Big Island Mike. Long Island Bigfoot Mike. But yeah, Bigfoot Mike.
Well, there's a link there in the chat post. If anyone wants to come in and join us, feel free. We're an open door. We're a friendly bunch. We don't fight. Not yet.
Oh yeah, looking at the chat now. Hello, Roger Blair and Cairo Sounds. Oh yeah, there's Mike. Okay, see, I've got the chat up now. And Jeanette, hello all. Excellent.
Yeah. Hey guys, how about subscribing sometime and press the tickle that little fella, the thumb down below, and give us a like, a thumbs up, and hey, much appreciate it. We're here for the fun of it,
please. We don't want
Huh?
thumbs downs for Terrence's show.
No,
No.
no thumb down. No, definitely no thumb down. They haven't got a thumb. They should put a thumb down though. Do they have a thumb down? They
They
don't have a
used
thumb
to,
down.
and
They
then
do.
some people can put it back if you do the add-on through your browser. But the powers that be didn't like people thumbs downing all their woke BS, and
Yeah.
that's why they have to ban and
Oh.
censor us.
Yeah, I've had a few people turn around saying, "I'm fed up of listening to this crap," which
We
I
don't
find
want
it mighty
them to
enjoyable.
get confused that you're down under and hit the down thumbs.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, well, hey, I suppose if you take
Flat
it around,
earthers eat your heart out.
Yeah. Oh, I wish more people. Come on, guys. Hey, you're on the side there. You're listening. Come and join us. Hey, if you like a bit of new blood, as we say. Yes. So, what you been up to today, Brian? Or
just
whatever.
getting resituated after my amazing 2-week deferred honeymoon to Hawaii.
Wonderful.
We hit 3 of the Hawaiian islands. We diverted around Maui out of respect for the locals, but we want to go back as soon as possible. But by all means, I want to plug April Chang of Travel Chic World. .com, I think is her website, but it's CHENG, and she's an amazing travel agent, because for my wife and I to have to reroute flights and hotels in the midst of the Maui tragedy would have been just not my cup of tea, and she was worth her every penny times 10.
Right. Yeah. And it's great when somebody can organize your life like that and just take all the confusion and worry out of it. It's just everything's laid on. You just go and do, and it's wonderful, Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It does. And being organized like this, it's a good way to go, especially on a special second honeymoon.
Yeah. Well, it was our first honeymoon. When I say deferred honeymoon, because of the scam demic, let's see if AI picks up on that.
No, you can say it. I don't care. I don't care.
We weren't going anywhere where they're shoving nasal swabs, potentially with DARPA hydrogel packets.
Well, that's your personal right and personal choice, mate. And you're entitled to that.
Yep. And so we waited until all of that hoopla calmed down, and then Maui was actually the main spot I wanted to go, but unfortunately, it got lasered before we got to make it there. But I've been to Lahaina before that, and I got to say it's a tragedy what happened to those people and the land and what's gone.
What's happening there? What's happening about that now? Has anybody kind of?
Well, so there's a couple of things happening now. There's what's happening in front of the scenes and what's happening behind the scenes. Right now, the governor is trying to enforce through the local police and sheriff's departments. I don't know what their setup is, but to basically have a no photography, no video policy. And then some agency has erected a fencing with like black netting barrier, so you can't see what's behind the curtain. And then so people can't make observations, most likely, about, hey, the blue cars and blue umbrellas and blue things and blue roofs survived, or maybe the homes with solar that didn't have the newfangled panels couldn't get backfed and burned down, so some of those survived. What do you know? And other things like that. And
I heard that they want to build a new satellite city there. Is that true? On the most of the areas.
15-minute city. 15-minute city might be what you're referring to there, Terrence.
Well, tell me about that. What's that 15 minutes?
So 15-minute cities are part of what's known as Agenda 21, now Agenda 2030, to basically herd us all into these basically chicken coop like concentration camp cities for our good and for the environment's good. And then out there generate or create what they call nature corridors or preserves. Like think Hunger Games, and they have got the districts and people are crowded in. Like, okay, you're in Iowa, so you're the corn farmer people, and you're going to all live in this one corn farmer city, and us rich people are going to do laps in our like monorail, whatever setups or underground tunnels to not despoil nature that we get to enjoy and hunt some of you on every now and then, that sort of thing.
Yeah, actually, I did post some videos the other day, which I found on YouTube, where in Australia they got these little cabins they're putting up all over the place. They call them FEMA cabins,
FEMA camps.
Yeah, and what one tradesman turned around and said, "What are these pipes? All these they've got pipes going into the ventilation system."
Basically that's up there with the WEF New World Order Agenda 2030 concentration camps, spiffed up but still low budget.
Sounds like gas chamber crap to me. You know what I mean? You go to bed one night, they turn the gas on, you don't wake up, right?
Smells like, I don't want to say tastes like, but what's that?
But that's what it's. I don't mind saying it sounds like they're going to gas people. That's what they get. See, personally, I don't believe everything I see or hear on YouTube. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't. Hey,
no, you don't.
No.
When I see you morph into an astronaut and then an alien, and you're like, you got this super buff blue body, like, don't take that for granted.
But no, listen, I don't mind discussing because I'm as I say, I call myself a truth seeker, and as Robert, the Professor Bauer would turn around and say, is a conspiracist analyst. He'll look at it from different angles and try to evaluate what's going on. That's basically how I'm looking at it, because if they're going to put pipes into a ventilation system, what for? I know that air conditioners have outside pipes going in, which they do anyhow, but that's for water cooling. But these are not for water. This is what these tradies are talking about. What's this pipe going in there for? And of course you got to ask yourself these questions, because
the tradie might be thinking, gee, why am I building this camp? Oh, I'm getting paid double. And it's a good contract.
And I signed an NDA. Aboard there, Mike. How are you?
Hey, Mike.
Call him out.
There we go. Hey,
there he is.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike. Hey, what's up, guys? Had some technical difficulties as usual. So.
Hey, mate, I had it all last weekend. My microphone crapped itself, getting static, and it's bad. It was bad.
That was just him moving it around, but now you're positioned properly.
Oh, no, I've got new leads, and I've got spares now.
Oh, for you, your mic, yeah, Terrence.
Oh, yes, my mic, yes. Sorry, Mike, we're getting confused. And where's your location there, Mike?
I'm in New York.
New York, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm in Perth, Western Australia.
Yeah, I'm on Long Island. It's a little smaller of an island than yours, but yeah.
Yeah, our island's a bit too big, I mean.
Yeah.
Guys, there's our chance to gang up on the convict Aussie here.
Hey, did you know I found out today that Western Australia, it's 250 million square miles.
Yeah, so you're way there on the western coast, southwest edge of Australia.
Western Australia, yes, virtually 1/3 of the country.
Yeah, and then trucking out to you is like from Brisbane and Sydney and all that is. They just fly
2 to 3 day journey. I think if you had to track, we have a rail system. A lot of stuff it's flown in or shipped in. Yeah,
I was about to say, like, I'd rather just ship or fly that in than drive that in from. That's a lot of kangaroos under the wheels at night. They just hop towards the light. It's terrible. It's horrible. I remember being a kid on a teenager on a tour bus there through the outback on the way to Alice Springs and Cooper Pedy and Uluru. And, you just like all of a sudden you'd hear at the front of the bus a thump and then a thump, 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 thump towards the back. And then you're like, what the fuck was, like, what do we, and then the driver's like, easy, mate, just a roo.
Yeah, just a roo. Yeah, or wombat, But, yeah, we have your phone.
It's just a dingo.
Most 4-wheel drives here in Australia have what they call the bull bars on the front, But
I hope you're not hitting any koalas.
Oh, no, come on, mate. Oh, no, I
If you
could tell
do,
you
it
a
won't be
racist.
a dum 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 dum. It'll be a
I could tell you a racist joke, but I won't because I'm not racist.
Maybe a dingo or something.
Oh, boy.
That'd be all right.
All right, get ready, Facebook and YouTube censors.
Do you want to hear this joke? Do you? Okay.
Well, you got me for 10 minutes, so we're 8 minutes.
Okay.
Actually 5.
Okay.
I got a 4 because I should give more.
Why in Australia? Some really lousy people. I mean, I've got a sense of humor. I mean, I have. I mean, people can call me a wanker. They can call me whatever. I just laugh it off. I mean, people take the piss out of me all the time. I'll be honest. But we call Aboriginals in Australia. We have a name. We call them bungs. He's a bung. An Aboriginal, you can go up to an Aboriginal and say, "There you go, mate." And he says, "Hey, I'm all right for a bung." And they actually acknowledge it. But somebody said, "How do they name Aboriginals bungs?" Well, we say, "Well, it's the sound they make when you hit a vulva."
No. No.
I don't know if I even understood your accent's so thick with me.
All I heard was hitting a bong.
No,
Hitting a bong.
No, hitting a bong.
Boom.
A bone?
Boom. Don't worry, you didn't get it.
What's a bong bong?
Just turn it into American. Go thump thump.
B-U-N-G.
A bung bung.
Bung.
Okay,
It's the
you gotta
sound the
explain
bull
it.
bar makes when you hit it. Bung.
Oh, bung bung. Okay.
Oh, no. Don't worry. Woo.
Well, there went
So,
a
Mike,
2-minute
so
joke
what are
into
you
5
into,
minutes.
Mike? So what's your speciality, sir?
Oh, my wheelhouse. I do Bigfoot.
You do Bigfoot.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Wonderful. I've never had anybody on the show talking about Bigfoot, and I love to because I know nothing about Bigfoot.
Terrence, there were Bigfoot there with Mike and I and many others at Montauk at Camp Hero this last August 12th, 11th, 12th, and 13th and 14th. Well, this summer. You want to talk about that, Mike? Because I think that's the audience should hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a hope. Like it's pretty much on their terms, right? But they're all around us. It's just a matter of, do they want to come out to play? Do they want to come out to deal with humans, right? So I have somewhat of a rapport with them at this point. I know it's kind of hard for people to fathom because of what's put out in social media and on a grand scale. But so I went out. I didn't know why I went to this particular spot. I didn't know that there was going to be that was where everyone was going to choose to do the healing the next day. I guess on some level I did, but I went out there and that was the particular place I started to see them popping up, and they were around the perimeter there. And I just kind of asked them then and the next day if they would just kind of be part of this like healing with us and show up for us. And I know what kind of healers they are. Like they've done it for me. I used to be on, I was a combat veteran. I am a combat veteran, but when I was on like 15 different medicines before I, started going out in the woods with Sasquatch. And, long story short, they were very present. They were very, very present that day. And, we got video of them like that. I know it seems like a big deal for a lot of people. It just becomes like another thing for me. I don't know. Like it's not that I take it for granted. It's just become something kind of that it's just become regular for me that they're kind of in my life now. And
well, I believe in you. I believe in you 100%. Well, why I say this, I mean, even before the birth of the internet, the legends go. We've got our version of the Bigfoot. We call it a Yowie.
Yeah,
that's been under Aboriginal legends for thousands of years in rock paintings, right?
Oh yeah, Yowie is one of the first reported. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean it's documented.
Right.
Then you got then you got the abominable snowman.
Guys, I'm gonna have to duck out here. It's a pleasure.
Okay, hey, good catching up with you, Brian.
Brian.
I'll
great seeing you, Geryl. Thank you once again, Terrence and Mike. I know the audience that like what you're saying we take for granted, but yeah, they need to hear it because you've been blessed with friendship and familyship from our Sasquatch brothers and sisters. So thank you.
All right, bro. Good to see you, bro.
He's a wonderful bloke. And, you know,
Yeah,
and
good egg.
even Russia has got their own version of it. So, I mean, every country's got it. Different names, different strokes for different folks. I mean, let's face it. It's a phenomenon that's real. You just can't make this shit up, excuse my expression. You know, you
Oh,
just
no.
can't.
If you come by my channel, you'll know I got the worst mouth in history. So I just.
I know I will. I'll send me the link, mate, and I'll definitely sign up for you, mate, for sure. I want to learn more about it myself. I mean, I
Yeah,
know a
you know.
little bit. I know a little bit about everything, Michael, but I'm no master of any.
That's me too, man. Yeah, you know, jack of all trades, master of none, right?
That's right. Hey,
Hey, Terry, get on
hey,
your
look who's here.
get
That's
on
the
your
prom.
YouTube and make Chiro a mod, and she'll start posting links for us.
Hey, do you know Mr. Bauer, Robert Bauer here, Michael?
No.
Robert, meet Mike.
Hello, Mike. How are you?
What's the name of your podcast show there, Mike?
Me?
Yeah. Do you have a podcast show?
Long Island Bigfoot. It's pretty simple.
Long Island Bigfoot. There you are.
Yeah, I don't really
Everybody-
do too. I don't do a lot of live streams. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't have necessarily. I do a lot of live streams, but it's.
He's frozen.
He usually goes out camping and does live streams, and or he'll be just talking to the chat on live streams. But then he has his own shows that he'll edit his videos from being out looking for Bigfoot or out camping, and he'll post those too.
Right. Here he's back.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on.
Oh, mate. It
Signal's
happens.
shoddy.
As they say. Yeah, it happens. It happens. Yeah, but yeah, I only do live. You know, I'm the Babylon Burby, and the person that usually brings a bit of sanity into the place is our friend Robert here. He's the man with the golden tonsils, and he explains things in such a philosophical way, actually. So, what have you been up to?
All I can do is, like all of us, is speak the truth that I know.
Yep.
And that is something that is the subjective experience of everyone. And I think if people finally came to the point of realizing that, you know, whatever it is you think is real is simply the truth that you experience. And when you look at all of the amazing stuff that people like Mike are talking about with Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, Yowie, abominable snowman, all the different iterations, those to me are just other iterations of the humanoid species that seems to be a favor of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
The universe seems to favor this humanoid construct of, you know, the form that we have with a head, torso, arms, legs, and some kind of speech, you know, language. So, I don't know how philosophical or silly-sophical it might be, but it is nonetheless the truth that I explore and experience just like everyone else.
Yeah. Well, we started off the show tonight, Joel and I. We actually started off talking about body language, vibrations, and how we kind of how we portray and like how it's communicate with our body language and how it affects people. I mean,
yeah,
it resonates. It resonates. Everything resonates, you know. And I think, especially Mike, if you kind of go into the wilderness, and if you're kind of really wanting to see something you desire to see, the chances of it happening can manifest it. That's my it's like the power of positive thinking. It's like how many people go outside in the backyard and say, look up the sky and say, I'm going out to look for UFOs, and all of a sudden they'll see something. They're tuned into it. They're tracked.
You're nailing the first step right on the head. You know what I mean? You really are. And then you mentioned vibration too, and that's that's an important part of what I do is like I go out and I vibrate at the same frequency every time I go out so that they can find me, because they're not, it's not simple like us, it's not like I don't have their cell phone number, right? So how do I reach them? So similar to a walkie-talkie dial, I have to tune into them, and I'm going different places. I like a challenge, like, so I go in these different areas, and what I try to do is vibrate and find that same frequency all the time, so that if they so choose, they can reach me, and then we receive each other loud and clear. If I'm having an off day, like a rough day, like where I can't get myself in a good mindset, like, or in a good spiritual place, a good relaxing place, like, I don't even try it, because I just know, like, I'm only human. I got my, I got my issues too, right? But I know if I go out there in a funk, I'm not going to attract what I want to attract. I'm going to bring in, God knows what,
Well, it goes in line with what they call the C5 protocol, isn't it, Robert? Is it the C5 protocol they call it?
CE5, yeah, that's
C5, yeah.
Greer's.
Yeah, that's somebody putting a package and a bow on, what we do. Yeah, selling it for, but yeah.
Well, I think the key thing that he's dialed into, which is, in my way of thinking, in my opinion, it's what's called frequency physics, and to me, it's the successor of the current mechanistic materialistic model that we currently have, which is highly incomplete and mostly inaccurate. But frequency is it's the waves of the universe. So in my view, consciousness creates the universe. It creates the universe through one of its nature and habit of energy. Energy is then expressed through a myriad of frequencies. Yeah. So in the way I see things, it doesn't matter if you're looking at your desk, or if you're looking at the cosmos, or if you're seeing aberrations or paranormal or disembodied spirits. And the most fascinating one for me is non-local consciousness, which is the ability to traverse what we consider space and time to see information. And I think some of the most recent research I've seen on the Bigfoot phenomenon is that they are what's typically called trans-dimensional beings. But to me, those trans dimensions are not dimensions; they are just different frequency sets.
That's it. So, I mean, there's times where they're just walking right next to me. You know what I mean? I can hear them plain as day, like I call them phantom footsteps, but it's not necessarily cloaking, or that they're like, they're just right there. You know what I mean? It's a parallel. It's literally right there. And like you're saying, if we just don't know how to tap into that frequency, we just won't see it.
It's like the frequencies are out of phase and they're kind of crossing each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything you said is what I try to, like, I don't know how to put it into words necessarily. You know what I mean? I just can kind of tell people what I do and try my best to explain it. But what you're saying is very, like, it's profound. It's interesting.
Well, to me, what you were saying about, you tune in, the frequency physics is the simplest way for me to describe it is like using a radio, and you dial into different frequencies and you get information in those different frequencies. So that to me is the key to reality. It's all a set of frequencies, and we are manifested in the materium that we all experience in a certain frequency set. And the reason we can do that is that we are all individual, unique frequency stamps, frequency signatures of consciousness. That's what makes us have the consciousness that we do. And then it also enables us to amble through the reality of the material that we all share and experience. But we are not the embodiment of this physical manifestation. We are frequencies, unique. You can put all kinds of different words on it: spirit, soul, daemons, on what that frequency is. But that frequency is just here inhabiting these meat suits.
Yes,
in this frequency spectrum,
and we can talk to each other in frequency through body language. I mean, it's the craziest thing, you know, and you don't have to say anything.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we love our words. Is one of my friends who's got constant contact with Sasquatch as well. She says, you know, they always laugh at her, like, you know, you humans love your words, you know, like, you're always talking, you know, like there's so many other ways to communicate, and like, you know, you guys just kind of like dumbed it down to this one thing, you know. And like,
well, that's another aspect of my philosophy of reality, is that language is the operating system of the mind. So the words, the letters, the symbols, the sounds are the things that we use to identify and interact with this reality. And it's very profound when you look at different languages and cultures around the world and throughout time, that you can see the way that they expressed themselves in the realities that they knew were described and defined by the words and the sounds that they used to navigate that reality. So, for example, we have the word student in English, and it's kind of a transitory definition in that when you are studying something, you are a student. And then once you're done studying something, you're no longer a student of. In Japan and kanji, the word for student is ka, K-A. And it has the same meaning that we have for studying something, but it also means being in a perpetual student. Once you start to learn something, you are always learning it. You never stop learning. And that's an example of, you know, the word games and language games that are hoisted upon the feeble sleeple, because people don't want to spend the time trying to sort out what these words mean and, you know, what their etymology is, what their origins are, and so forth. And that is, I think, part of what I sent in the chat earlier, that humanity is going through a major upgrade.
Yeah.
And this is something that has a number of different forces and reasons behind it. But that upgrade is so profound right now. It's one of the most profound that we know of, in my opinion, throughout the recorded history that we have latched onto and been able to decipher. But this upgrade is changing literally everything. And back in 2019, I did a show somewhat prophetically. I didn't know at the time, but I called it the Knowledge Apocalypse, the end of the curated narrative. And that narrative that's been curated is what has set all of the reality, the sciences, the politics, the cultures, the different ways in which we think about the world around us. And it has put a serious lockbox on what reality actually is. So I think what we're seeing now, with all of this consternation and crazy crap that's going on across literally all of the spectrums of the social fabric that we all experience, it's all unraveling. I mean, there isn't one knowledge domain, in my opinion, that hasn't fallen over on its face. And the quote unquote experts, you know, have lost whatever credibility they may have had before, because they've been spectacularly wrong. and it's been extremely obvious and blatant in society. So as we see these authoritative domains of knowledge and information just be wrong all the time, it's causing more and more people to wake up, and or at least go through some semblance of an experience of waking up. So not everybody is the same. Not everybody is, I think, people think about or talk about this reincarnation aspect, which I believe that activity happens, but not in the way that it's been defined or explained. I prefer the term iteration. I think that we go through various iterations as our unique frequency stamp expresses itself whenever it is either guided to or decided upon, whatever may happen there. And when people talk about, is there free will? There's been a huge debate about, is free will actually a thing, or are we in a simulation where everything is predefined and predestined? And that goes everything from theological belief systems, Christianity, Judaism, and so forth, all the way to the geek side, which I are one. And you talk about simulation theory. Are we really in a simulation that's been pre-programmed? So to me, free will is a habit and a nature of consciousness, because consciousness is always in motion. Whether you look at it as being moving forward or backward, it's always moving. And that movement and that motion is, in my opinion, consciousness expressing itself in creation. So consciousness, the habit of consciousness is always to create, and that uses energy to do that. So if it's in constant creation mode, then it's essentially always looking for novelty or something new. And if nothing else, at least the information that we have of the history that we've got right now, there's always something new popping up.
Well, here's an interesting thought,
and I
Robert.
think that's where we are headed, is into a completely new iteration of humanity.
Here's an interesting thought. I mean, how much would humanity change if we started using 90% of our brain instead of less than 10%?
That's something I always
Where
say.
Would it take us? Where would
I
it
always
take
say
us?
that.
Would we go instantly mad? Would we go mad with the input, or what? I don't know.
Well, you got to keep in mind too that 10% is an arbitrary number that's been assigned by the people who are experts who have failed miserably.
Yeah.
So if you back up and you go, well, how did you measure that? So to me, one of the things that is the most important aspect of our experience is questions. If we're not questioning everything, then we are not engaged in the experience that reality is providing to us, that consciousness has given us. So the other thing is that the brain is not who we are. The brain is nothing more than a neurological organ. The mind is the expression of the spirit, of that energetic frequency stamp. Okay.
And
so the mind,
it could be smaller than a walnut, that area.
I mean, Tesla nailed it with the whole, Tesla had with the energy that's never destroyed.
Vibration.
Energy is never destroyed. It's only transformed. And everything he was saying and was so accurate. And then, it's like he went away and it all went away somehow. You know what I mean? And it
was so accurate that they had to tamp him down. They had to basically erase him, because if people realize the brilliance of the insights that Tesla was given and then gave to us, we would be living in a completely different world.
Yeah. Well,
do you have any input there, Geryl, at all?
Yeah, Geryl.
I'm enjoying this conversation. Is everything I think anyway.
Well, I've just kind of been letting you know you're still with us, okay?
I'm here.
No, but I'm finding it very interesting what Robert and Mike.
But here's where people get lost with me, because I try to tell them about the Sasquatch, and how they're energy-based beings, and they aren't like us. They don't need people be like, well, how do they survive? They'd have to eat because they're so big. And I'm like, no, it's not like that, because they're not, they haven't come to a point where, like us, where we require sustenance. That's how we only know how to feed ourselves energy. They can soak up the sun like a plant. They have these different ways that they collect energy from different natural places, and like, they build teepees, which are pyramids in a sense, right? Which is free energy. Like, I mean, we're the only ones that are like sitting here on the outside, struggling through life, chasing food, chasing a paycheck, chasing energy, power bills, food, costs go up, everything, right? They control this stuff, which controls us. But like, even if you wanted to go and hunt a deer, think about what it takes to go through those processes, right? You got to go and pay somebody to get that gun or that rifle or that, that bow. Some people can make their own stuff, right? But like, then you got to get a tag, you got to get a hunting license, you got to pay for a place to go hunt. It's such a big deal, and everything's been taken away from us naturally, and it's just sad.
Well,
But
that's
anyway.
a part of the control mechanism to keep us at a lower state of vibratory awareness, and then expressing that understanding and awareness of vibration within ourselves.
Mhm.
So the real, there's a number of different arguments and evidence that you can look at throughout the millennia of different cultures, civilizations that we've been able to uncover and decipher. But there's this concept of the mystery schools or the mystic arts. And it's clear, at least in the research that I've done, that this information that Tesla had, Theosophical Society, anthroposophy, and even going back, Rosicrucians, Templars, Masons. I mean, there's inklings of all of this information in all of them. And it seems as though that there was a directed, concerted effort to maintain that information and to keep it, not necessarily let it out, but to maintain it so that it would be available for future generations. And you see this in the Book of the Dead in the Egyptian mythos. You see it in the Dogon. There's these commonalities across all these different belief systems and cultures that is strikingly obvious, and it blows me away that it's apparently it's so obvious it's hard to see. But that is that there's a continuing mythos of intervention into humanity, and that intervention has come in a number of different forms, but almost all of them start with somebody up there came down here and gave us stuff, showed us stuff, taught us stuff.
And that applies to every culture on the planet.
That's my point. I mean, it's everywhere. Yeah. It's in every mythos. So this whole idea right now, this narrative that's sucking all the oxygen out of the air and on disclosure, to me is just complete nonsense.
Yeah,
disclosure happened thousands and thousands of years ago, if not longer. And the disclosure and this is where I think Greer is probably onto something. His latest press conference that he had back in June was talking about how the real disclosure is the fact that those in power that control everything have had all these technologies, 0 point energy, free water, communications, all these things, and they have kept it to themselves. And had they let out that information, we would be living in a completely different world. And it actually goes, before that, and
or we could have annihilated, or we could have annihilated ourselves sooner.
Well, I think that's obviously a possibility, because we do have a tendency to be group idiots. What's that phrase? Never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. We we tend to
Oh, it-
fall into that category on more than a regular basis. But I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that the information has been kept from us. Had the information about like what Tesla came up with, Faraday, Maxwell, Heaviside, Tesla, all these guys, Keeley, they all tapped into the reality of the ether, and that the energy and that the everything that sustains the materium is available to us in the ether. And they demonstrated it over and over and over again. But every time it got to a point where it was something that could be released en masse, it was squished. And there's question as to whether JP Morgan actually said this, but I think that the essence of it is true, is that when he found out that Tesla was doing not just wireless communications, but wireless power with Wardenclyffe, he supposedly quipped, well, I can't put a meter on that. So I can't let that go. I can't let that out in the wild.
Also affected the copper wire industry as well.
So I really think that humanity is going through a major consciousness upgrade in understanding and experiencing the true nature of reality, the true nature of the materium, where it comes from, how it manifests. And to me, it's just mind-bogglingly simple, in that if the first hermetic principle is mentalism, is that everything is from consciousness. And that's been passed down from the Egyptians and even before the Egyptians, and the hermetic principles of Hermes Trismegistus and Thoth. And they've given it, they've attributed it to different people or different entities throughout time. But nonetheless, those principles are very sound. I mean, they just make sense if you just look at them not only individually, but collectively. And the first one is that consciousness is the reason everything exists. Well, if that's true, what are the habits and nature of consciousness? Well, apparently energy comes from this consciousness thing, because everything is energy. It doesn't matter, even our weak quantum mechanics and quantum theory models all demonstrate that everything is a wave. There's nothing that is solid. Even an electron and all these microscopic, the more they look, the farther down they look, they keep finding everything is a wave, right? It's just another expression of the wave. Well, to me, waves are frequencies, right? So if everything comes from consciousness, the habit and nature of consciousness is energy, and the habit and nature of energy is frequencies, and everything is a frequency from that point forward, then it becomes real simple for me. And I look at it and say, well, all these different divination techniques, numerology, astrology, tarot, I Ching, psychic capabilities, these are all just expressions of the nature and habit of consciousness.
And the big thing is, I think everybody is looking for the Holy Grail of where does our conscious goes once the vessel dies.
To me, it's another frequency that just goes back and iterates into something else. To me, the one thing that they got right, and the whole idea of energy cannot be created or destroyed, is that it just transforms. So the energy that animates us, our unique frequency stamp, just transforms. It just goes back into another cycle, another iteration of expressing itself within the great cosmos. Because what is cosmos? It is the creation of consciousness. What does consciousness do? It's constantly in motion, and it's always seeking creation and novelty. Once that settled in my mind, it became a hell of a lot easier to navigate all of the craziness. Because to me, all the craziness is just weird manifestations of individual expression of their interpretation and speculation of what reality is. And that comes from science all the way to the mystic arts and metaphysics, theologies, philosophies, etc. And then it becomes more interesting to kind of explore and look at them, because you don't know what they are until you go look at them yourself. And if you adopt as truth something that somebody else tells you is the reason for reality, or the reason that it, and the way it inhabits and manifests, then that's up to you. Everybody's got their free will to decide if they want to adopt that or not. But the real cool thing is when you start experiencing and exploring it and experiencing it yourself, because then you start saying, I'm not sure that what that says makes sense. And that goes back to the other point I was making. One of the best things you can do now is just have questions. I have questions. And my
You did
biggest
say
thing,
you're an analyst. You did say you're an analyst.
I am a conspiracy analyst. Yes.
Yes.
I am a reality analyst. I am a consciousness analyst.
You're not a
I'm
conspiracist.
constantly looking at shit, trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah,
And that
that's
requires a
good.
lot of data points. It requires, constantly being present while life is in session.
Well,
And
actually, that just that word, analyst, well, on the last show we had, it really hit home with me. I mean, believe it or not, there's something about it. I mean, it sounds simple, it's just an analyst, but compare it to conspiracists.
well, the theorist, I mean, in order to be a theorist, you have to analyze first, in my opinion, just the definitions of the word.
Yeah, but
So
they
you
don't
can't
mean it
come up
like
with a
that.
theory unless you've analyzed something first.
Yeah, but the way it's worded, in a way, I get the message like it's they believe in nonsense. That's the stigma it portrays.
Yeah.
Whereas
Well, it's a part of the
analysts
word games that are used
you're
to
looking at it.
control.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're word games that are used to control the people, to keep them from exploring on their own and discovering reality from how it actually is and how it actually works. Because when I look at some of the answers, when you go looking for an answer on whatever subject,
Mm.
half the time, and this goes back to the frequency thing, okay? In frequencies, there's harmony and disharmony. There's resonance and discord, okay?
There's up and
And
down.
and if when I see an answer to something that doesn't resonate, or I mean, just at the core, whether I understand it or not, the first thing I do start having is questions. It's like, well, wait a minute, I'm not sure about that answer. And then what eventually happens is I look at that answer and I go, I'm not sure about that answer. The next question is, show me how you arrived at that answer. So that I can see the process that you went through and see if that resonates.
Yeah,
So it's really about not just questioning the answers, it's questioning the questions.
And that's the beauty about having a show like this, where you have multiple guests and people can discuss it. So we can brainstorm, give an opinion, look at it from another person's perspective, which is very healthy, because hey, I haven't got all the answers.
That's why I don't show the highlight reels too when I'm showing something. Like, I show like the lead up to it and all that, like the uncut footage, and like some people don't like it. They like the meat and the potatoes, right? Like they just want the the highlight reel. But then that comes and backfires too, because like it's just not enough a lot of the times. But
you can't please everybody all the time. And we got into a subject last week and we talked about religion and talked about this and that. And some people, they don't understand. We're not knocking a person's belief, right? I'm entitled to look at religion or look at anything from a different perspective. Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. Everybody's got to walk their own walk. You know what I mean? It's not for me to tell what. I mean, I believe in God. That's my choice. But I'm not knocking religion as such. But I think there's a lot of things in society which we are conditioned with, and we won't say any church or any particular religious organization, but we are conditioned to believe certain things in certain ways with what they call, hey, we don't believe in aliens, but we believe there's an invisible man in the sky. I mean, it's like, hey, can't there be both? They're closed mind with one and open to another, and this is where people got to get off that bloody high horse, and stop being so self-righteous, and say, hey, nobody's got all the bloody answers. We believe things in true faith in ourselves. What we see, what we perceive to be real to us. I see things which probably Robert wouldn't see, and same vice versa. Doesn't make me right.
Well, especially being upside down on the bottom half of the world. I mean, you got some crazy shit going on down there.
I know, mate. I'm kissing everybody's ass, aren't I?
It was I got to run, guys. It was really nice to meet you all. I appreciate
nice
you.
meeting you, Mike.
I didn't want to interject, but I'm like, I got my son sitting here, and
hey,
thank you so much,
again, buddy. Hey, you're welcome anytime, huh?
Thank you. I'll catch up with you soon.
See you,
It's a pleasure, Mike. Thank you.
Bye now. Yeah. Yes, Robert. Yes. Look, I tell you, we actually, Joel and I were talking earlier on. We were actually talking about vibrations, and we're talking about future space travel. It won't be done with a sextant. You can't do it. And you can't do it with a compass. Not in space, right? But because even with sextant, you've got to have the horizon. Well, you ain't got that in space. But how would they go through from point A to point B in space? And we were actually discussing, well, every planet has a signature, has a frequency. Hey, the Earth has its frequency, the Moon's got its own frequency, Mars has got its own frequency, and it's a unique signature to every planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly believe when they want to go to a particular place, in Zeta Reticuli or whatever, they'll zero them in, get the frequency sound of it, and they will follow that frequency to that destination.
Well, they kind of answer that in the Star Trek series. They do a little bit of the same thing in Star Wars, where it's about vectors, and when you have to have 3 points in order to find something, right? And so vector geometry, scalar geometry is how that's done. That's how they send spacecraft out. They can't use a sextant to get to Mars.
No, true.
But all you need is a point that you want to go, that you're starting from, and then a point that you want to go to, and that you have a dimension around each one of those. You have essentially what we consider the 3 dimensions. So that becomes a vector, and then you can point and you can say, I want to go. But then you have the whole idea of this concept of, wormholes. And there's more and more information. It seems to be corroborating the idea of folding time and space, so that you're not actually going from point A to point B in the sense of the way we think about distance. You're actually saying, here's point A, here's point B. I'm going to fold the 2 together so it's instant.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other.
As Einstein said, there's no such thing as a straight line. I remember there's a film he had, I think it was a train, and it was on the most perfectly straight line they thought of. It was actually done with a string line. It was that straight. But when they speed up the film, it actually worked on a curve.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no such thing. So they'd have to do the variations because there's no such thing as a straight line.
Well, that goes back to the whole idea of frequency physics. If everything is a wave, Alfred North Whitehead, when they first came out with the idea of quantum physics and mechanics back in the 20s, he was a philosopher, but he was also a mathematician. And most of the people that were in the philosophy, the higher mind kind of stuff, looked at quantum physics and went, huh? I don't understand what you're talking about. But because he was also a mathematician, he saw the mechanics of the magicalness of quantum physics, of the idea of the quantum. Quantum is the smallest. It's really weird because quanta is nothing more than the smallest thing you can get to. But it's been expanded into this massive series of math models that goes off and tries to explain the universe based on math and starting from this little tiny point. But what Whitehead did is he looked at it and he says, this is going to change everything, because it changes the way the philosophers look at the universe, because now there's all this math, all these models, and it's going to expand the idea of what philosophical sciences. In fact, back in the Descartes, back in the 1600s, he was the one that separated the materium from the etherium and looked at it and said, man can define all of the physical world, therefore man has dominion over it, and gods, angels, and spirits and the mind are all given to the church. So that delineation is what set us off on the current science models that we have. And I find it interesting that when you look at some of the real esoteric things as it relates to quantum mechanics and theory, is that essentially they're trying to describe what the esoterics did for centuries and millennia with divination and the philosopher's stone and all these different ways of looking at reality and the materium. And they've just taken all that stuff and just done it with math. What's even more interesting to me, and particularly in the subject of this whole climate science nonsense that's going on, is that even with all of the math, the models, the men and the machines that they've thrown at climate science, every one of them have been spectacularly wrong. There isn't one prediction or prognostication has been made by these climate geeks that has turned out.
Yeah, this is an ongoing
because they're
problem.
looking at the wrong thing for the wrong reason, and they're ignoring a shitload of data that's contrary to their own math and models. And that applies to literally every other scientific discipline. You could have the same conversation about allopathic medicine. The allopathic medicine is bullshit. The only thing that they're good for is if you've got a limb that needs to be reattached, they're good. They can go in and do that. But they don't know squat about nutrition. They don't. Biology and the neurosciences are all looking at it from a materialistic, mechanistic perspective, and they're completely dismissing all of the energy that is in the ether, in the etherium, which is where consciousness comes through and manifests. So they discount all that because consciousness is the one across all sciences. It is known as the hard problem because no one can explain it. Everyone experiences it, but no one can explain it. They have, their theories and their ideas and machinations of, again, math models, men and machines to try to come up with something, but they never do, because they're looking at the wrong thing looking for the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. And that's my little rant on.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, the part where you hit about climate change and all this stuff, I mean, when we covered this the other week, look, going back 30 years ago, they're talking about acid rain. Yeah. And then they talk about, we're heading in for another ice age. And then we start to, the ozone layer is depleting, right? Like, hey, they turn around and they wasn't it the CRC gases they actually blamed for ozone? But they didn't want to take the response, but they didn't want to tell you about the hydrogen bombs they actually let off in the upper atmosphere. I mean, literally thousands of nuclear thermal tests. They've got to blame something. And
you see, and that's part of the problem of the self-deluding concepts is that you can't be extremely intelligent and not at some point see the fallacy of your own bullshit. You can if you choose to, but if you have an objective neutrality about the information that you are exploring, then at some point your own BS is going to come up and raise its head, and you're going to go, well, shit, I didn't expect that. And if you're really bought in and, totally drank the Kool-Aid and you're soaked in, you're going to choose to ignore that or find some way to explain it away.
Yeah.
So that is what I think has happened over the last few years, in particular with this this latest spamdemic crap that came out, was that everybody who was in a position of authority to put forth declarations and declarative things about this is what it is and this is what we must do in order to mitigate and manage, all of them were wrong. And the more time goes on, the more we see that they were not only wrong, they were spectacularly wrong. And then the next level of that is they were intentionally wrong. And that's where the real subterfuge is being exposed and is, I think, part of the tipping point or the transition into this upgrade of humanity.
Yeah.
There had to be, it's unfortunate, but a necessary thing that you have to let those who are wrong, you have to let them be wrong on their own. In other words, you have to let them take over. You have to let them expose themselves by being in charge and failing miserably. It's only then that you're going to get enough information that is so blatant in the realm of common sense that the majority of the sheeple and the sleeple get enough of those oats in their diet, and they're going, something's not right here. I thought it was right. I was told it was right. I believed it was right, but I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff showing up that's quite contrary to that. So
it does a good. It sounds like a goat really well when he does that, doesn't he?
Yeah. So anyway, I did not expect to see you show up on.
Well, I was speaking to Geryl. I was actually texting Geryl and I were communicating on Messenger. And I says, "Oh God, here it is. It was 12:30, wasn't it, Geryl?" I says, "I can't believe it. If I'm not going to go to sleep in half an hour, I'm going to get up. I'm just going to get up. I'm not going to lay there just tossing and turning all night, you know." But we actually got into that earlier on with Geryl and I. We actually talked about how people are cattle to the cities. We are being penned. We are like in a corral where years ago, I mean, everybody lived out in the suburbs, way out there somewhere. You know, they lived in country towns, and now the country towns are dying and getting everybody to the city. Now, even farms now, you know, the latest technology now, and they're doing it in Japan. They have what they call, they've got skyscrapers, and these skyscrapers are farms, and it's all done in hydroponics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or your vegetables are grown.
Some of the advances of science have just been truly remarkable. I mean, the technology we're using right now to do this it wouldn't be without the science that went into the tech that built this. And so I'm not saying that it's all wrong. I'm saying
good.
that I think that it's been mismanaged, and it's been
genetically modified stuff, definitely
intentionally.
Yeah.
So that only certain amounts of the wow factor, we get a little bit of Jetsons here and there, is let out to, and they're used as, you know, additional control mechanisms. But
you know what I find, sorry there, Robert. Well, it's fresh in my mind. What irks me the most is any that's healthy for you. In other words, it's had less processing, so therefore that saves on labor cost and manufacturing cost. Mm-hmm. So you got less salt, less sugar. Why is the shit more expensive? Because it's healthy for you. You know?
Well,
they don't sell as much as they would like to, so they kind of say, "Well, you still got to make a profit here." You know, I mean, it's all doing
well, and that's just another level of control. But I really have to get going. I didn't expect to come on and be here for this long. I was going to drop in and say hi, but
just a quick. I was going to do a show today, but apparently it was my friend's Ken's funeral today. My friend who had the brain tumor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I remember telling you sometime.
Yeah.
So it was his memorial today and everything else. So I thought, no, out of respect, no. So that was anyway. But then again, hey, much appreciate you dropping in, Robert. Hey, as usual, it's your second home.
Thank you for having me, Geryl. Good to see
Well,
you again.
Let me know when your show's on, will you? And you know, and I can drop in and say hello.
I'm gonna try to get that fired up here in the next few weeks, so you'll know, and we'll get on some lots of crazy stuff that needs to be talked about, because stuff needs to be talked about, and people need to have a different opinion than you, like you were saying.
I wonder how our teenager friend of ours has enjoyed his reunion.
Teenager.
Think about it. He's the oldest teenager, right? I mean, hey, mate, a 78-year-old man, mate, he gets around like a teenager. You can't stop him. You can't stop him.
And it's always an engaging.
We're talking about Jim Goodall, everybody.
Yeah. It's always an engaging, long-form conversation, and those are the kind, like you were saying, have an open conversation, being able to put ideas on the table that, as long as people are open to having their own stuff queried and explored, then that's where you can find all the magic, in my opinion. That's where I find it is.
Well, I'm believing being open. Sometimes it's good to agree to disagree as well. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Hey, as long as we can speak our mind, but not attack each other, but let's attack the issue, which is the most important thing. Anyway, Robert, thank you, sir, for coming in, and I'm sure Gerald enjoyed it. Is enjoying it too, mate. So hey, see you next time, Robert. I probably have a show next weekend, so if you're free, you know where to go.
I got it. Thank you, sir. You guys have a great day.
All right. See you later.
Catch you later, Robert. Bye-bye now. Oh, this is wonderful. It's always good when Robert comes on, I mean,
I probably should get going here pretty soon too.
Yeah, I understand. You got things to do. I know. He's a very knowledgeable bloke. He really is, and
he is.
I wish
everything I was thinking. He was starting to talk about stuff, so I was like, "Well, I'll just sit here and listen to him." And
I wish I had the golden tonsils like him, mate. And I mean, hey, when I talk, I babble on, mate. I'm a babbler, and I know it. But hey, I'm a loving battler, you know what I mean? Anyway, Joe, listen, I know you've got to go, so listen, take it easy, mate, and thank you very much for being with me tonight. And hey, it's good to have a chat with a mate, and especially when I'm tossing and turning and can't sleep. And our good friend Jeanette's been on the side patiently all evening, and listening to my babbling. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Robert she was kind of listening to. And she's a sweet lady. I tell you that now. She really is. And I've actually spoken to Janet before. She's a lovely lady, mate. She really is. She's amazing. Anyway, so I'll let you go. And I'm going to actually finish off the show with a bit of a. I'll wait to do like a bit of a video, short little video, just to phase out like. What's it called? What is it called? Freedom outro? With Max said, that one. Like, just hold on a sec, just listen.
Freedom. Writers have no freedom on TV. One rude suggestion, and the censors are straight on their back. Not on their back in a rude way, I meant. Now, I'm no librarian. In fact, I don't know what star sign I am. But as a famous person once said, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. And as another more famous person, once said, if you don't teach them to read, you can fool them whenever you like. Have you any idea how successful censorship is on TV? Don't know the answer? Successful, isn't it?
I just love it. I really do love it. Anyway, I'll just sign out here. And everybody, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And enjoy having you around. Enjoy my company and the people I've had on. Look, anytime I'm on, chat there and make sure there's if you got a link, come and join us and say hello. And, don't be shy. And remember, always be kind, be nice, and try to aspire to inspire people. That's I've got to get it right. I must be ready for sleep now.
There
Geryl,
you go.
so.
Get some sleep.
And don't forget, for everybody, like and subscribe. Tickle that little thumb down there and press that little button up there and subscribe. Be much appreciated. And see you all again. Thank you very much for joining us. Bye bye.
Love and
Catch you
peace,
later,
everyone.
Geryl. Bye bye now, mate. Bye bye.